Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And oh my goodness, I'm super excited with our guest today. Why? Because she did something absolutely insane. First of all, I found out that she decided to close down her business and open a brand new one up during COVID. Oh my goodness, like who does that? But the experience, the insights, and everything that she's learned about business, she's now created and built this amazing business that helps children with maths. And you're like, what? Oh my goodness, yes, maths, right? I never even liked maths. Who wants to know about maths? Well, this is what she actually helps children with. And so please welcome to the stage, Karen. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Kate. I'm really excited to be here.
Right, I've got so many questions for you, right? Because of your vast experience that you've had in the past with different businesses. And basically, it feels like you've gone from one extreme to another extreme, right? And so I would love for you to share with our audience today a little bit about what that journey has looked like, because there's been several bumps in the roads, right?
Yeah, bumps or massive chasms that I've fallen into and climbed out of. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit how you actually built this business that you have today.
Okay, so the shortest version of a long story, I was a teacher. I was a primary school teacher for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And because this is about maths, I'll tell you that I hated maths at school. I failed my maths and had to resit it. And literally, I remember thinking at 15, because I'm young in my year, when I had to resit my maths O-level as it was at the time, I was like, thank goodness I'll never have to do maths again. If I get this out of the way, I'll never have to do it. And that showed that I didn't understand that maths was part of my life, because the way I'd been taught it didn't show me that. So I hated it. I hid teaching younger children because I thought I wouldn't need to know as much maths. And then roll on 10 years into teaching, I got told I was going to be teaching Key Stage 2, and it was going to be 8 and 9-year-olds. And I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to know more than I do. And I was petrified. Oh, wow. So I was sent on some training, and the training was really eye-opening. And the thing I came back with was, it isn't me and it isn't maths. It's just the way I've been taught. Oh. And I had never, ever in my life suspected, because I was just, I don't have the maths gene. You're either good at maths or you're not. Yeah. And my mum had very much told me that the maths gene was weak on the female side of the family. Dad was all right, but I wasn't. And, it had all the experience of the falling out with the homework and all of that we know. And at that point, I realized that what I was failing at and what I'd hated wasn't maths. So I set out on a quest to find out, well, what is maths really? Right. And the more I learned, the more I changed the way I taught, and the more my children just came to life, and every child started making fantastic progress, and the lights went on in their eyes, and the parents said, what are you doing? My child's completely changed how they're talking about maths. And that then led me to eventually, when I was 39, I set up my first consultancy business independently as a maths advisor. I had worked for a local authority, so I kind of knew what that role was, but I went out on my own, really hard. It's like being down a side street with a great shop, but no one knows you're there. Putting A-frames up, trying to get people to come down your street. And I built that business up from, age 39, which was 2009. We're in then? Yeah, 2009. And I built that up, worked internationally, and my job was training teachers, advising head teachers, working with whole staff on what we call, professional development days, going in and observing lessons and giving feedback, and basically showing people that maths needs to be lived and breathed. And maths is something that it starts with what we do in our everyday lives, and it only makes sense when we write it down using symbols when we first lived it and breathed it. So that was my job then. And then unfortunately, kind of, I'd love it to have been my decision, but COVID took away my business in March 2020 overnight. Suddenly, my in-person business, all the schools, of course, closed, everything closed. And I was not able to access any furlough, was nothing available. And I sort of sat there on the sofa for half a day feeling sorry for myself, and then decided that I'd better do something because we couldn't pay the mortgage. My husband's a painter and decorator. We couldn't afford to live on just his salary. So I set up a completely new company. I took my business online. I started from no customers. I had the worst internet in the world. I live in the middle of Wales, where it took something like 12 hours to upload one video because our internet speed was so low.
Yes.
And I built a business purely on Facebook with no website. I had no knowledge. I'd never done a Zoom call, never been recorded in any way.
Wow.
And I built an entire business then bespoke to working with practitioners who teach 3 to 5 year olds all across the world to improve their own maths knowledge. So rather than me aiming my training at the children, I changed the way adults think and feel and the knowledge they've got. So then they can't help but teach differently because they get so excited and so passionate about the subject. And then I show them what to do with the children.
Interesting. So one of the big questions that really kind of came across here was, well, you hated maths. You couldn't get your head around it. You didn't understand why you needed it, but yet you chose a career around it. Like no one else would have done that. Like, what was it at that point where you were like, okay, I hate it, but I want to create a business around it? Where did that come from? Because I know I've hated maths since I was younger. I don't want nothing to do with it.
Right? Yeah. And you're not alone. The best way I can describe it, this is going to sound really strange, but it's such a simple example, was if I taught you to say the word cat and read the word cat and write the word cat, you wouldn't know anything about cats.
Right.
You know that that's just the word. Yeah, the word is not the concept. The concept is a real cat. And regardless of whether you like them or you've got one or you're allergic, of course, to understand what a cat is, you need to spend time near cats, looking at cats, whether, in real life, on film and so forth. What we've got with maths, first of all, is that people are trying to learn symbols and procedures without knowing what they mean and the impact of them and what they're describing. It's exactly the same. So if you don't teach people what the maths is, the symbols represent first, and what maths they're making sense of, what wonderful problems, because, someone building a bridge, you can't build a bridge without mathematics. And yet you wouldn't start with the calculations. You start with the idea you need a bridge and it needs to stand up, and, how much is it going to cost to build and so forth. And the other thing is, we always come across people who can memorize really well, and memorizing something and memory are completely different. So if I was to tell you all about cats and you had a very good capacity to memorize, which a small part of the population does, you could then talk as if you knew about cats. But actually, we've all met that small child who can precociously talk about whatever it is, and we know they don't understand it, they're just saying all the words. Well, a lot of maths is like that. People can reproduce the procedures, but they don't understand the mathematics itself, the structures, the interactions. Whereas the majority of people, if I keep with my cats analogy, if you want to know what a cat is, you just spend time interacting with cats, whether it's a tree, whether it's the autumn. The way you learn about any concept is to interact with it. And then you put words to it, and then you learn to write it down. And that is what mathematics, and it's not just me that says this, fortunately. All the research shows that when you learn maths in a concrete way first, and then you create images based on these concrete experiences, and then you attach that to language, which is all written mathematics is, it makes complete sense. So then when you see that word cat in a book, you wouldn't keep looking at CAT, you would be picturing a real cat. Whereas when we look at a calculation, most people keep on just looking at the calculation because it doesn't represent anything else. It just is what it is. So that's the maths I failed with. That's the maths I hated. I didn't get it. I didn't understand its application. I couldn't remember things that people were making me do thousands of times. I felt stupid.
Yeah.
And when you with the teachers that I work with and the adults I work with, I show them mathematics that's sometimes very, very high level complex mathematics. And they say, I must be doing something wrong because I get this. And they've taught themselves that they think they can't learn maths. So when they see it and they get it and it makes sense,
Yeah.
they say they kind of doubt themselves. But then when they realize they really are getting it, they're like, why didn't no one teach me this? Why did no one? And they see maths all around them and they stop being frightened and they start becoming obsessive like me and talk about it constantly.
Now, so let me get this right. So this strategy not only helps kids, but also adults too.
Well, it's the adults first. So by showing people what maths really is and drawing on how humans learn mathematics, because all humans are highly mathematical because we're very scientific and the two subjects are pretty much the same subject.
Ah.
The curiosity you see in young children where they're trying to find out what something does. So mathematics, you have to almost throw away everything you ever thought maths was.
Right.
What I say to people is they're going to tip out their toolbox if it's got anything in it on the floor, start with it empty. I will put new tools in. And if at any point any of the ones on the floor look like they still work, you can bring them back. No babies in bathwater. But what happens is people say, it's like I've opened a door to a room and
Ah.
seen a world that I didn't even know existed. And they love it because, as I say, what all I'm doing is showing them the way maths really looks and how to learn it. And it's not a scheme and it's not an approach and it's not a philosophy. It's just shows them the reality.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to take a couple steps back, right? What was going through your head, Karen, when you decided to shut down a business and start a new one during COVID? What was that all about?
I kind of saw it coming, but
Oh.
not from a because of course I saw COVID taking hold in Italy and so forth. And I knew that I had an in-person business. Like everybody, I didn't know what it would be like to live through it. I didn't know if I was entitled to any support or anything. So I began to take a little bit of control before. I actually cancelled a few events beforehand. So at least I had a little bit of control. But when the announcement was made in, I think it was around the 20th of March or something, that we were going into lockdown that day, I knew that was it for my business. And
Yes.
I literally, almost when I'm thinking of the feeling, it was like there was no top to my world anymore. I'd lost everything that felt safe around me. It was like someone opened up something to the universe and I had nothing that I could cling on to, nothing that I understood because I was working for myself. So when you've got no protection and everything I'd already taken, it took such a lot for me to leave teaching and become a consultant. That was because I was just a teacher through and through. That was my stick of rock. And to go out on my own, I've spent 11 years learning to get good at that and run a business. So I felt like I was in shock. I think that's probably what I'm trying to describe, this kind of airy, nothing's real feeling. And I literally didn't know what to do. I sat on the sofa in my dressing gown with lots of cups of tea, but only for about half a day because I'm not very good at sitting still. And I felt really sorry for myself for half a day.
Goodness. Okay, and so I guess what was that thought process you're going through? Because I know there were so many people that had to shut down the business during COVID, right? So many people experienced it. And what stopped you from going, do you know what? Screw this, right? I'm not going to carry on doing this business. Like, I don't want this to happen to me again. I'm just going to, when everything opens up, I'm just going to get a job, right? Because that way, at least if something like this happens again, that you still get funds for it while you're at home, right? And I know a lot of people thought that, they've probably gone and done that and not started a business. So what kept you going and what was your thought process to what you do next?
I think it was twofold. One, when I left university, I actually went to live abroad for a year when everybody else went into teaching, which again is quite a sort of the safe thing to do. I decided to go and be an au pair in Sweden for a year, and I did the opposite to everybody else. And
Ah.
then when I was
Wait, so
26,
you're telling me that you
sorry,
was a rebel at a young age?
I think I just like if I want to do something, I just find a way of doing it. And maybe it's like, yeah. a kind of quiet rebel. I was more of a overt rebel as an earlier teenager, but I think by this age I was just, I think I'm a July birthday, and I thought I'd been in education like all my life. I
Right.
went from, school to university to trying to be a teacher. I had the thought of carrying on going back to school again, but as the teacher, felt like someone was smothering me.
Ah.
So I did that, and then I actually worked in London for 4 years, and I gave up my job at that point and traveled the world on my own. So there is a
Oh,
bit of a pattern here
yeah.
of someone who, if I think there's an opportunity and I don't know how it's going to pan out, you just plan the next step and then you just go for it. And then I did that again at 35 as well. And I
Mm.
blame Michael Palin for that, because I saw him on a train in Peru and I thought, I want to do that. So I did, but without a film crew to look after me. So I think that, plus quite a lot of difficult things that have happened in my family in the past as well.
Mm.
When I sat there, and your question about going back to a job, I felt really like I couldn't break out. I felt very controlled in the job, and I always wanted to follow my passions and do my best. And all I ended up doing was doing everything that I was supposed to do, plus everything I believed in, and it burnt me out completely, because you can't, I was like two people trying to live this life. Whereas in my own business, I'm only me. And I've had to learn to do that, because, again, not taking too much notice of what other people say about you or are doing is hard. So that comparisonitis thing is, because I'm used to being in an organization.
Yeah.
So I think that I knew I had to take it online. I knew that was an opening, but I literally had not got the first clue. I used a computer like everybody else. I say I'd literally never even done a live on Facebook or anything. There was no recordings of me anywhere. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to learn to go on camera. I'm going to have to build a website that people can buy courses from. And I was just so terrified.
I was just gonna
So
say, like, didn't that scare you and be like, what am I getting myself into? Like, I got to start all over again, learning all these new things, all these new ways, right? And so you probably had ample opportunity to be like, oh my goodness, no, I'm not doing this, screw it, right? But you didn't, you kept on going. And so, did you learn how to do all those things?
I did. I think the way I work and the way I talk to the educators that I support is, you've got to have a clear destination in mind.
Mm.
Otherwise, like anything in life, if you go for a walk and you don't know where your destination is, you won't know which direction to go in. But once you've decided that, and I know it's a bit cliche, but you just have to take the first step. And then you take the second step, and then you take the third step. And I think women in particular, I'm very I want to know the whole journey, and that everything's going to work out fine and everything's going to be perfect before I take the first step. So that's my natural instinct, which I think is very female and because we're the protectors, aren't we? And that doesn't work. So I was walking the dog in the afternoon when I got dressed and, pulled myself up and decided to go for a walk. And I happened to be listening to a podcast, which I can't believe I was, because I didn't have the mental energy to listen to anything. I was so lost.
Yeah.
And yet this person mentioned somebody doing a 5-day free challenge, which, of course, 4 years on, we're so used to these kind of things, but I'd never even heard of this. And it was somebody about how to take your business online. And when the universe kind of hands you something.
Yeah.
And this was maybe the Tuesday, and she'd already started on the Monday. And I just got in touch with her straight away and said, can I still join? And I literally, all I did was her 5-day challenge. I left my notebook on the kitchen table because I couldn't even come in my office. I was so depressed about everything I'd lost that I actually went and worked in a different part of the house, because mindset wise, that was easier.
Yeah.
And I'd started a new business with a new name and a new audience by the end of that week. And that was the hardest first step. And she gave me that get over the threshold of this new business. And I had planned my own mini challenge, because there was a lot of teachers, of course, who, although the schools officially closed, many of my teachers were in school looking after the workers, the essential workers' children, plus they were providing all the on-school online teaching. And they were so unbelievably stressed. And they were trying to communicate with parents who were unbelievably stressed. So I decided that my job was to act as a, 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 go-between and make life easier for everyone who was having a really hard time. And that's what I focused on, and that's what I did. And I did it for free. And that I got my first 20 people in a Facebook, which were my founder members of my new business, that
Wow.
through that.
That is amazing. Oh my goodness. So, Karen, like your entire journey, your experience, and the fact that you just kept on going, like you had challenges in between. A lot of people would have given up, but you were like, no, all right, I'm going to accomplish this. Then the next hurdle, you're going to accomplish that. And you just kept on going, right? Which is awesome. But we also know, right? We may wear many hats in business, but as women, we wear many hats in our personal lives as well. And off camera, you did mention to me that, you look after your elderly mother, that your sister has a disabled child that you help as well. And so you're having to kind of be that sister, be the aunt, right? Be the daughter to your elderly mother. Like, how do you manage to balance all of these things? And because it's got to have some sort of emotional turmoil in there as well, right?
Yeah, and what I didn't mention as well is I'm diagnosed, I've got depression and anxiety, so I'm on medication for that, which obviously I think many creative people, and I don't talk about this openly at all, so this is a bit of a first for me, because one of the symptoms of having depression is you don't talk about it because you feel like you're somehow a failure for having it, which again is a symptom of the disease, which is just so strange. So really making sure that I'm well enough to look after the business and everybody in it, because actually my business is living, breathing people. Yeah, and that's what I see and that's what I care about. And then my mum, had a stroke in March and is getting very ill very quickly, suddenly getting very old, which I think we see this with our parents. They are well, and then suddenly within a very short amount of time they can deteriorate, and she lives on her own. So
Wow.
that, yes, takes and I'm smiling because it's not always fun, and you have to do a lot of deep breaths and a lot of running away and having a glass of wine and things. But then with my sister, that is the hardest one. She's my baby sister. Her son was diagnosed with a very, very severe condition at 15 weeks, which means he has multiple epileptic seizures, which literally he stops breathing. They have to carry oxygen around. He's 11 months developmentally and 11 years old. And their life is horrendously hard. And nothing I can do can take away how hard it is. So you're always looking for ways of supporting, but you just feel guilty all the time and a bit useless. So of course that, and the age gap is that I'm quite a sort of like mother position with my sister. So, you want to make everything right, and you
Yeah.
want to, but I think the thing I've learned with all of this is a bit like with the business is you got to just take it one day at a time. You have to accept things for what they are.
Yeah.
Don't fight against stuff you can't change. It doesn't mean it's not really hard and really horrible, but actually fighting against it doesn't work. So, and I've got a brilliant husband.
Yes, you did to me. Recording that he's very patient.
He is.
And so as we're kind of managing life, right? Business and life, right? Husbands are always going to be the ones that we kind of sometimes we take it out. We just need to vent. That's the right thing, right? We need to vent, right? And so you have had moments where you've had to vent to your husband and it's just taken it in his stride, right? But it's also important to have that someone there as well. And so how does that help with having your husband there as a rock, right? With everything that's going, how does that really help and support you in your business?
Oh, honestly, it's like I will literally say I can't not be who I am or have made any of the decisions that I've made if he wasn't, there. And it's great because we do have a good partnership, because I tend, as you've heard, I'm the one who says, oh, let's go and do this, let's go and do that. And he knows he wouldn't have lived in any of the houses we've lived in or gone on any of the trips we've gone on, adventures, because I'm the one who's the jumping up and down one. But we make such a good team because I'm the running up and downstairs, getting frustrated about something or excited. And he's this like calm influence in my life and very supportive and takes enough interest to be proud of me, but not so much interest that I get to talk about my business all the time, which is good as well. He'd be like, no, you're boring me now.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of teachers are married to teachers, and he's a painter and decorator, which anybody out there, if you're a teacher, don't marry a teacher. It's not good, because you never stop talking about, well, it's just a job that consumes you education. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Top tip.
Oh my goodness. Now, I want to kind of go back to what you said previously in regards to, you're having to take medication. You've been, in a state of being depressed, and the fact that you're having to emotionally take on taking care of your mom as well, and your sister, their family, their kids. How do you manage all of that? Because that must come down on you like a ton of bricks. Like, how do you manage your own mindset, and be there to support your family?
Sometimes I manage it better than others. I think I'm very typical, that I would say that I feel like I don't manage it very well most of the time, but the reality is I'm probably doing a better job than I think I am, because it's that feeling, like the guilt feeling, and also the awfulness that is menopause means that I've become an insomniac. I mean, fortunately, menopause is now talked about, which has made me being one of the first to go through it, and people can actually talk about it. But coupling lack of sleep with things, of course, is a bit of a blow when you're awake at 3 o'clock in the morning and you've been lying in bed for 5 hours. So
But you always look good.
Oh, that's just the lighting and amazing makeup. You're so kind. You only seen me once in person. The glasses hide the shadows. That's what it is. But no, I think you've got to simplify things, and you've got to. We live in a beautiful place, and I walk the dog, and I know that what I eat and resting and having something to do that is nothing to do with my business, because I didn't used to have that, and I've made an effort last January to kind of pick up a hobby that I thought I'd dropped. So I'm just stroking the dog here because he's come up to say hello.
Oh, okay.
Just keep on weird arm movements. I'm stroking the leash.
Hold on a second. So you're taking care of a dog as well, on top of everything?
Oh yeah, but he's patting me. He's slightly high maintenance, but he's gorgeous. But he gets me out. And no, I think it just comes down to really basic things, doesn't it? About not beating yourself up about stuff. Be mindful of what you eat, and I think I learned recently, we had some time away together, myself and my husband, and I ran the business actually while I was away, but I limited it to 2 hours a day because I didn't want to impact on our time together. And it turned out that the world did not end. The planet did not stop revolving because I wasn't sitting at my desk for however many hours a day. And I came back in a much better place. So
did you have to train yourself, or did you have to get some sort of training to understand how to manage all of this and what works for you and what doesn't?
I think, it's so hard, because I think, not everybody's suited to working on their own and working from home, as we know. And I think I am. It did take that kind of cabin fever when you've been used to working in a team and working in a place, does take a long time to get used to. But I think it's about not isolating yourself too much, which can become a temptation. If you're on your own and you're working on your own, it's easier sometimes to sort of lock yourself away a bit when things get hard. And you think, I think you've got to be in touch with what you feel you need, and just, I say, keep things simple. I know you and I talked about the need to drop some balls sometimes, because and then you drop them and you realize, yes, I feel bad about that lying on the ground, but actually look around, everything is still working. So really, I'm probably not putting it as clearly as I'd like to, but I think I get a little bit better the older I get, but it's not a consistent upward trajectory. It's up and down all the time, but the overall, if you choose to take notice of what is doing you good and what does work. But the older I've got, the more you realize it is quite simple stuff.
Yeah.
And it comes down to, like sleep, food, exercise. I hate to sound so boring. Learning, being around the right people, staying true to what you believe in, like really listening to what the messages inside your heart are, as well as what the logic inside your head says.
Oh my goodness. All right, that is deep stuff. So clearly, like, you are very aware of yourself, your body, what it can take, what it can't, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. And it's funny because when we are entrepreneurs and you're building this business, and it is lonely, right? Because not everyone else can relate. And so you do have to find that community, the right community of people, right, to be around to kind of keep you going. Now, with this new business that you've built, right, and the fact that your husband is a painter can't even say my words, decorator.
Decorator, yeah.
How have you managed to kind of keep going, keep that mindset, that entrepreneur mindset, to keep fighting all the different challenges that you come up with, as well as making sure that your health is on point, and just making the success of the business that you have? Like, what actually drives you to keep just going?
I'm lucky enough, if luck is the right word, that I'm in a job where to make a difference to people's lives is actually really easy. I'm going to say that carefully, because my practitioners that I support generally work in a system where someone else is controlling what they do. So unlike a business, say if I was to give you some advice in your business, you get to choose whether to use it straight away. My
Right.
customers don't have that. I will give them something and they might say, we're not allowed to do it like that in our school, or we are told we have to do it like this. There's a lot of that. So
A
these
lot
poor
of
people,
regulations.
not so much regulations, but people who don't know what they don't know, trying to do things a certain way. Just think health service. It's very similar. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it won't get into all the politics of it, but it's and it, you know, the new shiny thing that comes through, or we you know, they're frightened, of course, of Ofsted if they're in an English school. That's a massive big deal. So I'm there saying, how you think in your head, how you feel about yourself is what I'm about. So people come into my world and they'll say, I came in for maths, and somebody recently, another person with an elderly parent with Alzheimer's who's had a horrific time, she said, I couldn't have got through what I've been going through without being in this group. And the group is my maths group. I just like, you know, and you don't, it's not what she expected to get. So in my job, I get to give people skills, if they want them, tools that make them feel much better about themselves, that give them confidence and power and the ability to do something with the children that instantly makes a difference. And I think so many people don't have the privilege of being in a job where they can hand something to someone and that instantly changes. And so that is absolutely any way I can learn to do that better, and also not try, because my brain, I have 100 ideas every single day and they always seem brilliant. And then I have to, like, you know, carve it all down to, I know the reality is like I should focus on one thing and what's going to make the boat go faster, and is it what they want? But yeah, that honestly, the thing that drives me is when you get a little message, like a direct message or a little email, or I get things through the post, and you literally, that life you've changed, because they will change so many lives. Because
Right.
by me helping one educator, imagine how many lives, and they impact on their children's life, children's families' lives as well. Because if the child is happy and energized and excited, then of course parents, they're much easier to
Yeah,
parent as well.
absolutely. Oh my goodness. So it actually really feels I'm getting a little bit emotional now with all this stuff that you're talking about. But it feels like you're not just teaching them maths, right? But you're there to help, you're counseling them. It's like therapy as well, and it's building their confidence, not just for the child, but for the parents too. Because I know that there's probably parents out there that probably feel like they failed because their child doesn't understand maths, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of other things that kind of come out of just being part of your group and learning maths. There's a whole bigger thing to it, right?
Definitely. Well, the friendships that have been made, I've got 2 memberships, and the higher level membership.
I've got to say, Karen, I don't even feel like they're friends. It's almost like they've turned into a second family for you.
Yeah, and to each other. I mean, it really is. Yeah, the smaller the group is, just like we know from business, the more people will tell each other personal things. They'll tell each other things in my group that they won't tell a friend, because actually that's almost like, as you say, talking to a counselor. You've got that little bit of distance, and they're listened to, because when you work as an educator, you are often very lonely in that role. And particularly if you're early years, you often feel very separate to the rest of the school and not respected because you work with very young children. So they come in and they can, talk about their wins. They can talk about what's driving them mad. They can talk about how they, low confidence they feel about something. And people will totally understand and listen to them. And they've never had that before.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that is awesome. And so I know, Karen, at this point, people are thinking, oh my goodness, how do I get hold of Karen? How do I get to learn more about what she does? How can she help my child, right? And so I know you have an awesome freebie for everyone that's listening and watching this episode. Do you want to just explain what that freebie is?
Well, there's kind of a freebie and an extra bit, because if you want to get to know what I talk about in a really easy way for free, we have the EY Maths YouTube channel. So EY is early years, so just EY Maths. And if you can use the search facilities on that, but go and have a look at the videos. Look at the videos that have been most watched. Just go and watch them and you'll get a real feel for what I do. And also my lovely dog that's here features on quite a lot of them. Is called Blue. And we know how popular Bluey is. So there's that. But also, if you go to my website, which is www.eymaths.co.uk, there is a pop-up that comes up. And the thing that I am most well known for is something called subitizing, which is a natural skill that we're all born with and is the foundation of everyone's ability to make sense of number, and particularly add, subtract, multiply, and divide, all the stuff that many of us really struggled with. So there's 14 cards there to tell you what it is, how to do it with your child. And also, of course, I'm then available to them through the website and YouTube channel and so forth. I will answer anybody's questions and help them. And I don't charge anything. They can come into my world for free. And if they want to take that next step in the future, they can. But there's so much on offer because I just really want to show people, if they feel much better about it, they will change the way they talk to their child.
Oh, there you go. Oh my goodness, guys. There's so many golden nuggets that Karen has dropped today, right? Like, go and reach out to her. Go and check out her videos, right? And make sure you connect with her on social media, because she will be able to help you and your child with maths. And we all know what a big problem maths is, right? Just all rounder. I've had issues with maths when I was younger and still do, right? Now I know where to go when I'm having maths issues. Karen.
Yeah.
So make sure that you scroll down. The links will all be there. Connect with Karen and do it right now. You're not going to regret it. Karen, oh my goodness, thank you for coming on the show. So many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been gone. The time has whizzed by.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.